Today in the news, we got some more RX news, some Xcloud news, and some Core X news. What's up guys, I'm Snows, and this is your boot sequence. Looks like the noise is getting stronger about the new RX series of AMD cards. In fact, sources like ChipHell, China's PC Online, and Germany's Golem.de are all suggesting that AMD will launch an RX670 very soon as this weekend. With this new Polaris 30, AMD is supposed to jump from 14 nanometers to 12 nanometers, and that die shrink should allow for either a lower power consumption and or higher clock speeds. I hope AMD leans towards the higher clock speeds because who cares about power consumption? If it pulls 250 watts but gets me higher FPS, let's go. PC Online is saying that the RX670 could be launched as early as this Friday, well announced. As for the RX680, you might have to wait since the same report says that it could come to us in November. Honestly, these rumors don't make much sense to me. While I would love to see a new RX card this soon, this weekend seems like a little too early with no teasers to show them off from AMD. Take all of this with a grain of salt, but if AMD manages to pull this off, this will basically be the same scenario as when the GTX 1080 came out. The RX 480 came out about a month after the 1080 and the 1060 a month after that. I wonder if Nvidia has like a 2060 ready to ship to counter the possible RX 680. Then we have Intel, which just announced the i9 that we've been waiting for. At $488, the 8-core 16-thread 9900K finally makes a little more sense. We had rumors of it floating around $550, but the new price is more reasonable. The 8-core 8-thread 9700K will be at $373, and the 9600K will be $262, which is a little cheaper than the CPU it's replacing, the 8600K. Do you think the $115 difference is worth it between the 97 and the 9900K? In this specific case, I personally think that the higher thread count might be worth it for the power users. They also announced a 9th gen for the X299 platform, but it's nothing too impressive. Their flagship 7980XE gets replaced by the 9980XE, which has the same number of cores. I mean, come on Intel, this is the core war. You could have at least given us a 24-core CPU to compete with Threadripper. The price of that CPU is also still very high at $2,000 for the 18-core model. Going back to AMD, we have the 12 and 24 core Threadripper release dates and pricing info. The 24 core CPU will be $1299 and the 12 core will be $649. They will both be available on the 29th of October, and I've got to say that the 12 core seems like a pretty good deal. And the price scaling of Threadripper is almost exactly $55 per core. That's pretty cool. With that information, a new toggle was also added to Ryzen's master software. The feature is called Dynamic Local Mode, and it's pretty awesome. As you might know, with AMD's CPU design, some cores are closer to the RAM than others and perform better on certain applications because of that proximity. Well, Dynamic Local Mode will look at the apps that might benefit from being closer to the RAM controller and place them under them. Apps like games especially benefit from this technology. Take a look at this chart where Dynamic Local Mode was tested with multiple games. You can see that most games benefited from a 10 to 15% gain in performance, with some games like Battlefield 1 getting a 47% boost in CPU performance. Dynamic Local Mode is not their first attempt at redistributing core loads. They used to have a toggle for local mode or distributed mode, which is very similar to Dynamic Local Mode, but those required a reboot. Not all apps will see a speed bump from this technology, but it's nice to see AMD push the limits of their architecture with optimizations like this. Moving on in gaming, the teased Microsoft Xbox Cloud service has been announced. Xcloud, as it is called, is a game streaming service that allows you to play Xbox quality games anywhere from a tablet or a phone. Microsoft is able to do this with something called the Blade. With the way that they show it, the Blade is basically a bunch of Xbox One S's that have been stripped to their core components and then stuffed into a server rack. I'm guessing that this might just be a visual representation of what they'll actually do. I mean, they could probably stuff more than the equivalent of 4 Xbox One S's devices in a server rack. Microsoft is currently working on the infrastructure to make sure that the latency will be the least of your problems. The public trials for the streaming service will start next year. What I find quite interesting is that Microsoft has the power to do something like that. I mean, they have huge data centers all over the world, and they have experience with it thanks to Azure and other services. So how is Sony going to compete with that? Do they have the infrastructure for it? Does Microsoft really have an edge in this situation? Let me know what you think down below. I'd love to see how you would compare PlayStation's version of that specific service, if that's ever something that they're gonna do. Did any of you guys try Google's Project Stream? If you did, please let me know on Twitter. I'd love a chat with you about the experience. Check out the description below for news stories that I haven't talked about but I found interesting. And that concludes today's video. Hopefully you've enjoyed the video. Don't forget to drop me a like down below and a comment if you want to talk about something. I'll be in this video's specific comment section all day long. And click right here to see last week's video and right here to subscribe to the channel. It would be gladly appreciate. I don't know why I did it like that. Anyways, thanks you guys for watching. Have yourselves a great one. Stay frosty, and I'll see you on the next one. Oh wow, what the hell was that?